The knife didn't fall. Clattered. Handle first. I remember that sound clearer than her voice. I was in the kitchen peeling a grapefruit. That's what I was doing when the truth slid into my life like a scalpel under the ribs. Quiet, precise, and irreversible. The morning light came in through the blinds in stripes, hitting the granite countertop in hard slants. The house smelled like citrus and fresh linen. Felt clean. Sterile. I hadn't even had my coffee yet. Her phone lit up on the table beside the sink. Face down. Buzzing like a heart under glass. 1 buzz. 2. 3. Rapid. Too fast for spam. Too casual for work. I glanced. Not because I was suspicious, I'd trained myself not to be. But because it wouldn't stop. Miss you already, smiling face with horns. The preview flashed for half a second before the screen dimmed. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. I knew that tone. That smug, lazy kind of texting confidence. You don't send that to a stranger. You don't send that to a friend. She was upstairs still drying her hair. The blow dryer hummed like background static while my world collapsed in absolute silence. I didn't confront her right then. That part surprises most people. But no. I finished peeling the grapefruit. Ate it slowly, slice by slice, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. I stared at that glowing phone like it was a bomb about to go off. Like if I stared long enough, the screen would crack open and reveal everything. But it didn't. She came downstairs barefoot, in one of my old shirts, humming something under her breath like it was just another Thursday. She kissed the top of my head like she'd kissed me 1,000 times before. And then she asked if I could drop her at that little cafe on Hollis. Said she was meeting Beth from work. I didn't ask which Beth. Didn't say I saw the message. Just nodded. Sure. Let's go. The cafe was packed. I double-parked. She leaned over and kissed me again. Be good, she said, almost teasing. Then she opened the door, stepped out, and those heels, the red ones she never wears for me anymore, clicked against the sidewalk like punctuation, like an exclamation mark at the end of a lie. I watched her walk in, not to Beth, to him. He was already waiting at a corner table. Arms spread like he'd claimed it all already, the seat, the room, the woman. She leaned down and hugged him like it was the first breath she'd had all week. I watched her hand slide up the back of his neck, watched her whisper something that made him grin. She didn't even look back once. I drove home. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just gripped the steering wheel so tight my fingers went numb. That night, she came home smelling like someone else's cologne. She curled into bed with me and said, I'm so tired. And I said, me too. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from anger, not even heartbreak. Just a strange electric stillness. Like I'd swallowed a storm and it refused to pass. She lay beside me breathing slow, face turned toward the window, one leg curled over mine like old times, but her body was miles away. I stared at the ceiling and listened. To her. To the hum of the street outside. To the sound of something dying between us that neither of us had the courage to name. At 3:14 a.m., I got up and walked barefoot to the living room. Her laptop sat on the coffee table. Unlocked. Dumb luck or maybe arrogance. Maybe she thought I wouldn't look. Or maybe she didn't care if I did. That's the part that broke me before I even clicked anything. Inbox. Folder marked work stuff. Inside emails. Not many. Just enough. Still thinking about your lips during that meeting today. He's so clueless, babe. It's almost cute. Soon. I'll book the room again next week. The timestamps were sharp knives. Dates that lined up with her fake brunches, her made-up work retreats. One thread even had photos, not naked, not explicit. Worse, smiling. Her, in that green dress I bought for our anniversary, standing way too close to him in some wine bar. He was holding her hand under the table. The file names were mundane. Q2 planning notes. HR slide deck. Hidden in plain sight like a crime scene scrubbed clean with bleach and charm. I didn't touch anything. Didn't forward. Didn't print. Just stared. Memorized. Let the acid of it fill every corner of me. Around 4 a.m., I went back to bed. She shifted in her sleep and muttered something. Maybe my name. Maybe his. I didn't ask. The next morning, she was chipper. She made eggs, played a podcast too loud while she danced around the kitchen in socks. She asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market like we used to. I told her no, said I had errands. She kissed my cheek and left, sunlight on her hair, keys jingling like nothing was wrong. I stood by the window and watched her car disappear down the street. The house went quiet again. And I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was real. I didn't go to work that day. I drove. Nowhere in particular, just roads. Long, endless roads that thread through neighborhoods we used to walk in hand. Places I could still hear our laughter echo off brick walls and old trees. But every turn brought back the same thing. The version of her I never knew existed. The one who could kiss me goodnight and text him, "I miss the way you grab my hips," in the same hour. I ended up at the lake. We used to go there before we were married. Back when love was simple, before bank accounts and house keys and calendar syncing. I sat on the hood of my car and watched the water move slow and heavy, like it understood something I didn't yet. I thought maybe it would pull this ache out of me if I just stared long enough. My phone buzzed. It was her. "Jess, you okay? You left early. Everything good?" I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. It wasn't even the content. It was the tone, soft, casual, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't fed another man the same eyes she used to feed me. I could still hear her laugh from the cafe 2 days ago. It replayed like a loop. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove home and started looking. Not for more emails. For patterns. The lies behind the lies. The days she claimed she was grading papers. Nights she said she had back-to-back parent calls. The more I mapped it, the more grotesquely perfect it all was. She'd made a whole rhythm of it. Enough truth to keep me blind. Enough space to keep herself warm elsewhere. Then came the part one wasn't ready for. Receipts. In her coat pocket. I was vacuuming the hallway when one slipped out. I almost threw it away, habit. Then I looked. Hotel Sunvale, room 213. 1 king deluxe. 3 guests maximum. No checkout time listed. Dated last Friday. That was the night she told me her friend Karen was having a mental breakdown and needed her to stay over. She even showed me a text from Karen that said, "Can't do this alone tonight." Now I don't know what hurts more. The lie she told or the effort she went through to dress it up. I set the receipt on the coffee table. Didn't hide it. Just left it there. A landmine. Maybe I wanted her to find it. Maybe I wanted her to know I knew. Maybe I wanted to see how deep this hole went. She came home at 6:27 p.m., hair up. Smiling. Saw the receipt. Paused. And then, and this is where it all split open. She picked it up slowly and said, "This isn't mine." Just like that. Didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just served the lie with calm eyes and a soft voice. I looked at her for a long time. Then I said, "You're really gonna lie with your car still warm in the driveway?" She stared back, jaw tight, something twitching behind her cheek like a mask slipping. Then she said it. "You're being paranoid again. Maybe get some sleep." The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee. Hummed. I sat across from her, silent, watching her slice an apple like she was preparing for a picnic. The same woman who looked me in the eye last night and denied a hotel receipt with her name on it. She handed me a slice across the table. "You want cinnamon with it?" she asked. Her voice was light, innocent, weaponized. I didn't answer. I just stood and walked to the living room. I needed space. I needed silence. What I got instead was her following me, apple in hand, like we were in some domestic commercial. "You've been in a mood lately," she said. "You need to start trusting me." That snapped something inside me. "Trust you?" I turned. "Trust you, after you spent the night in room 213? After he sent you a message saying he misses your lips? After you told me Karen was falling apart when she was actually just the alibi of the week?" Her smile dropped. Not all the way, not fear. Just the kind of shift you see when a magician knows the trick's been spoiled. "That's not what you think," she said quickly. "It's not. Don't insult me, Jess. Don't you dare try to play this like I'm confused." She put the apple down. Her whole face changed. Not sadness. Contempt. "So what?" she snapped. You check my emails now? You go through my stuff while I'm asleep? Jesus, you sound like a control freak. There it was. The deflection. The blame. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there while she weaponized the mess she made and handed it to me like a dead animal. You've been gone from this marriage for years, she continued. You think I wanted this? You think I planned to need someone else? I didn't say anything. I just watched her try to frame the story in real time, watched her rewrite history with a bitter tongue and a shaky voice. Then she said the line I'll never forget. Maybe if you'd looked at me like he does, I wouldn't have needed to feel that with someone else. That did it. I walked upstairs, packed a bag. Not everything, just enough. A bag with a jacket, 2 shirts, my toothbrush, and a photo of my dad and me fishing when I was 11, the only thing in the house that didn't lie to me. She didn't follow. Not even when the front door closed. It was like she expected it. I checked into a quiet motel off Route 6. The kind of place where no one asks your name twice and the ice machine hums louder than your thoughts. The room smelled like old bleach and cardboard. 1 bed. 1 lamp. A chair with a missing leg. But it was mine. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I breathed without second-guessing the air. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at my phone. For missed calls. All from her. No voicemails. Just that red badge pulsing on the screen like a wound. Then one text, simple and gutless. Jess, we should talk. No apology. No explanation. Just the diplomatic version of I know you know, but I'm not ready to confess unless cornered. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned the phone off and stared at the ceiling. Thought about everything. About how love can rock quietly without a sound. Thought about our wedding. Her vows. Her tears. Thought about how she smiled when she said, I'll never lie to you. And now here I was in a motel room where even the clock didn't tick, trying to remember what that version of her even sounded like. The next day, I went back to the house. Not to talk. Not to see her. Just to get the rest of my stuff. Clothes. Laptop. My grandfather's watch. I walked in without knocking. It was still my home legally. But I didn't feel like a resident anymore. I felt like a visitor in the museum of someone else's life. She was there. On the couch. Wearing my old hoodie like it meant something. Her face looked like she hadn't slept. Hair tied back, barefaced, eyes swollen. Hey, she said, soft. I didn't answer. You're just gonna pack without talking to me? Yes. She stood up, took a step forward like the distance between us was reversible. You're seriously doing this? You're just walking away. I dropped a pair of jeans into my duffel. She sighed, loud and performative. It was one time. My hand froze. She saw that. It was one time, she said again, quieter. And I hated myself for it. I turned to her, met her eyes, and I saw something in them I didn't expect, not guilt, not sadness, frustration. As if I was the obstacle. As if my hurt was the inconvenience here. Then she added the worst part. I don't love him. I just needed to feel wanted. She said it like that would make it okay. Like stepping out of a marriage was some kind of self-care retreat. Like need was an excuse for betrayal. I looked at her for a long time. And then I said, you weren't unwanted. You were just unseen. And you chose to fix that by breaking the one person who would have turned the whole world over just to keep you warm. I zipped the bag and walked out. She didn't follow. The motel room felt different when I returned. Like something had settled in. Not peace, no, not that. But certainty. The kind of clarity that shows up only after everything you feared turns out to be true. I placed my duffel on the floor, turned on the shower, and sat on the edge of the tub for 10 minutes before stepping in. I didn't even take my watch off. Let the hot water crash against me like maybe it could wash off what she did. It couldn't. That night, I didn't sleep. Not for lack of exhaustion, I was tired in a way I can't describe, but because I kept thinking about everything she'd said. Or didn't say. The way she framed it as a moment of weakness. One time, she claimed. As if the hundreds of texts, the hotel, the lies stacked like bricks in our hallway didn't count. But what stayed with me the most wasn't even the betrayal. It was how normal she looked when she said it. Like the version of her that swore she'd never be that person had never existed. Like she didn't even mourn the part of herself she killed off to become this. The next morning, I got a call from her sister, Lacey. We weren't especially close, but she'd always liked me. Always said I was good for Jess. She didn't call to scold. She called because Jess told her I'd overreacted and bailed over a misunderstanding. That word again. Misunderstanding. Like I tripped on a loose sentence and misread a hotel receipt. Lacey's voice was cautious. I just want to hear your side, she said. Jess is not making a lot of sense. I told her everything. The The messages. The emails. The lie about Karen. The night I watched her in that cafe laugh at another man like I wasn't alive. There was a long silence on the line. Then Lacey whispered she told me he was just a coworker. Swore nothing ever happened. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. I'm sorry, Lacey said. I didn't know. I really didn't know. I thanked her and hung up. By the end of that day, Jess had sent 2 more texts. Jess, I never meant to hurt you. Please talk to me. Jess, can we at least sit down and figure out where we stand? I didn't answer. Because I knew exactly where we stood. We stood on the wreckage of a life she lit on fire while I was still sleeping in it. The thing they don't tell you about betrayal is that it doesn't hit all at once. It leaks. In the way you double-check every memory like it's a crime scene. In the way a song comes on the radio and you remember she sang along to it, except now you wonder if she sang it thinking of him. In the way you catch yourself smiling at something and then feel guilty for forgetting, even for a second, that your life just got detonated. 3 days passed. Not a word from me. Plenty from her. Voice messages now, not just texts. The first few were apologetic. Shaky voice, sniffles between words. I didn't listen to the full ones. I got the gist. But by the 4th message, her tone had changed. You're being cruel now. I tried to explain. You're acting like everything we had meant nothing. She was unraveling. Not from loss. From loss of control. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I had something she didn't, truth. And truth, even when it guts you, has weight. Her stories were smoke, mine were bone. I finally responded. 2 words. I know. She didn't reply. That night I drove back to the house. Not to see her, I knew she wasn't there. She was staying at her friend Marla's, or at least that's what her Instagram hinted at. Yeah, I looked, I'm not proud of it. I walked through our front door with a key that still worked and stood in our kitchen. Everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. The air was heavy. Haunted. The kind of silence that holds its breath. On the fridge, her handwriting still marked the grocery list. Eggs, oat milk, almonds, garlic. I stared at the word garlic for too long. I don't know why. It looked like a signature now, one last trace of a woman who used to be mine. I walked into her bedroom. Stood in the doorway. The sheets were still a little unmade from when I left. Her side still perfumed faintly like muscle memory. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I thought about forgiveness. Not hers. Mine. Could I forgive myself for not seeing it sooner? For still loving her in some deep, desperate part of me? For wondering even now if there was some alternate version of this where we made it out? Then I noticed something on the nightstand. A bracelet. Not hers. A men's leather one. With silver clasps. It hadn't been there before. I picked it up slowly. Cold. Heavy. Real. She had brought him here. Not just into our life. Into our bed. That's when my stomach turned. The room spun. I sat down hard. This wasn't just a betrayal of love. It was a desecration of the life we built. I didn't leave right away. I sat on the edge of that bed for hours, bracelet in hand, like it had weight beyond the physical. It was simple, really. Black leather, braided. Something you'd find at a boutique next to cologne samples. But in that moment, it might as well have been radioactive. She didn't even try to hide it. Or maybe she forgot it was there. That stung worse, not just that she let him into our bed, but that she didn't care enough to clean the scene. At 2:13 a.m., the house door opened. I froze. Footsteps. Not hurried. Confident. Familiar. Her voice drifted in, soft, like she thought I might be asleep upstairs. Hey? I just came to grab a few things. I won't stay long, she called out. I didn't answer. She climbed the stairs. The rhythm of her heels against the wood was slow, uncertain now. Then she saw me. Sitting on the bed. Holding it. The bracelet. She froze mid-step, half in shadow. Oh, she said, too fast. I was going to. Whose is it? I asked, but I already knew. She swallowed. Her jaw twitched. It's not what it looks like. Really? I stood. Because it looks like UF **** at him in our bed. And he left a souvenir. She crossed her arms. Don't talk to me like that. Like what? I stepped closer. Like someone who got lied to? Betrayed? Humiliated? In his own home. She flinched. Not from fear. From being caught. I didn't think you'd come back, she said, almost bitter. You left. You made it clear. You made it clear first. Silence. Thick and sharp. I didn't plan this, she muttered. I laughed, short and joyless. You didn't plan it, but you packed it. You invited him into our bed. You're standing here like you still have the right to explain. Her face hardened. Maybe if you had been around more, paid attention to me more. There it is, I snapped. There's the victim card. I was alone even when you were here. You were never alone. You were just bored. And now? You're ashamed. Not sorry. Just mad I figured it out. She stepped back, as if distance could soften the damage. So what now? You want me to beg? You want me to say I'm a monster? I dropped the bracelet onto the nightstand like it burned. I don't want anything from you anymore. Her lip trembled. Whether it was guilt, regret, or rage, I couldn't tell. I didn't mean to fall for him, she whispered. And that was the last nail. Because she didn't deny it. Not anymore. She fell for him. She didn't trip. She jumped. I walked past her. Down the stairs. Out the door. She didn't follow. Not this time. The world outside felt foreign. I stepped into the night like it was another country. Unfamiliar streets, strange air. My car was still parked a block down, where I'd left it in case I couldn't go through with walking into that house. Now I couldn't walk back fast enough. I sat behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, not to drive, just to feel something solid. She said she didn't mean to fall for him. She said it like it was weather, like it happened to her, like it wasn't a decision she repeated, over and over, in secret hotels and low-lit rooms. I drove. Not home. Not to the motel. I drove out of town, into nowhere, the highway slicing through trees and fields that didn't care who hurt who. I didn't even know where I was going until I got there. Her school. It was 4 a.m. The parking lot was empty. The building loomed quiet and still. But there, under the security light, was his car. I knew it. The same one from that cafe. That smug little hatchback with the tinted windows and vanity plates. MRD MBA, Mr. D, middle school biology and amateur homewrecker. He wasn't supposed to be there. Unless he was. I parked across the street and waited. At 4:17, the side door opened. He stepped out, backpack slung over one shoulder. Looked around. Lit a cigarette. Took his time. Then a second figure appeared. Her hair down. Wearing his jacket. She kissed him. Not quickly. Not like a guilty goodbye. Like it was normal. Like they did this every day. Like this was real to them. That moment, more than the bracelet, more than the hotel, more than her lies. That kiss broke me. Because it wasn't desperation. It was intimacy. That was when I realized she hadn't made a mistake. She had made a choice. Not once. Not twice. Every single day since she let him in. She chose this. Chose him. Chose to build something new while I was still patching up what I thought we had. They laughed. Then parted. She got into her car. He into his. And I sat there watching, hands shaking on the wheel. Then I started the engine. And drove back. Not to talk. To finish what I started. I didn't sleep. Back in the motel room, I sat on the bed with my coat still on. Blinds drawn. Phone face down. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from rage, not entirely, but from the pure gravity of what I'd seen. Of how deeply she'd rewritten our story while I was still inside it. She was in love with him. I saw it in her body language. In the way she reached for his hand without hesitation. The way she leaned into him like he was her home now. It wasn't a fling. It wasn't lust. It was a life that had quietly bloomed behind my back. And now it was thriving. I kept thinking, what did I miss? The answer was, nothing. I hadn't missed a signal. She'd buried them. Carefully. Strategically. She had curated her betrayal like a performance. Every scene designed to look just believable enough. And I'd loved her too much to see what was rotting underneath. That morning, I finally replied to one of her messages. 3 words. I saw everything. No follow-up. No explanation. No room to twist it. She called instantly. I let it ring out. Then another text came. Jess, I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not what you. That was her favorite line. Not what you think. Except it always was. Every single time. I blocked her number. Then I called a lawyer. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because clarity is its own form of mercy. For both of us. The paperwork would take a few weeks. I knew that. But the decision took seconds. A switch had been flipped, and it wasn't going back. I packed up the motel room that afternoon. Checked out without a word. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't care what she did with it. Let her set it on fire for all I cared. Every corner of it was soaked in falsehood. Instead, I rented a place near the coast. Small, quiet, enough space to breathe and nothing more. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even my brother. I needed silence, not sympathy. I needed to remember what it was like to exist without constantly bracing for a lie. That night, I lay on a mattress on the floor and watched the shadows move across the ceiling. I thought about her hands. How they used to hold mine so tightly. I thought they were afraid to let go. And now I understood. They were only afraid of being seen. Because what is there to say to someone who chooses to burn you and then writes a poem about the ashes? Instead, I went for a walk. It was raining, just a little. Enough to sting my face and soak my hoodie. I didn't run for cover. I let it hit me. Let it remind me I was still here. Still alive. Still capable of standing upright even after being hollowed out. On the way back, I stopped by a cafe. Ordered a black coffee and sat by the window. There was a couple next to me, mid-30s, laughing over something on a shared phone screen. His arm was draped over her chair. Her hand rested on his knee. And I thought, will I ever trust that again? I didn't know. But I also didn't flinch when I saw it. That was something. It ended not with a bang, but with a signature. 2 months later, I sat across from her in a lawyer's office that smelled like air conditioning and printer toner. Neutral territory. 2 chairs. 1 table. No rings. She wore a gray blazer. No makeup. Hair tied back like she was going for civil. I didn't speak when she walked in, and neither did she. We both nodded like strangers acknowledging the same long flight delay. The attorney slid papers across the table explaining terms I had already read 100 times. No kids. No fight over assets. Just division. Clean. Legal. Sanitized. It felt wrong how unemotional the process was. How something that shattered my life could be wrapped in manila folders and neutral phrases like dissolution of partnership. She signed first. No hesitation. Then pushed the pen toward me, eyes barely meeting mine. I held it for a moment. Not because I didn't want to sign, I did. But because I remembered the first time we held hands. The night we danced in our socks in that old kitchen. The honeymoon morning when she whispered, I hope I never stop choosing you. I signed. Initialed the corners. Dated it. Done. As we stood to leave, she said it. Soft. Like maybe it had been rehearsed. I never stopped loving you, you know? I looked at her. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel hope. I felt empty. Not the broken kind, the finished kind. No, I said, you stopped. You just didn't notice. She blinked fast. Maybe to keep tears in. Maybe to force them out. But I walked out before I could care either way. Outside, the air was sharp. The sky was the color of old paper. And for the first time in nearly a year, I took a full breath. That night, I went home. My new home. And I wrote something down. Not for her. For myself. It said, you can survive the fire. But you don't walk back into the ashes looking for what you lost. You walk forward even if your legs still shake, even if your heart still limps. Because forward is the only honest direction. If you're reading this and you're where I was, broken, blind, stuck in a love that's grown fangs, hear me when I say this. You are not the villain for walking away from someone who would rather lie than lose you. You are not crazy for wanting truth over comfort. You are not weak for grieving a person who never really existed. And you will heal. It doesn't happen all at once. But it happens. One honest step at a time.